Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Heather and today we're going to be starting a reading vlog where I read the rainbow. So I had a couple books on my bookshelf that had colors in their titles, and then I found some books at the library too that had colors in their titles, and I want to just read books that have colors in the titles. So we're going to read the rainbow here. This stack is very heavy. So I have Lucky Red. This is, I think it's a Western women's fiction, possible romance. Don't really know much about it. I just saw Lucky Red and I was like, red, so I needed that for this book. Then I have this behemoth of a book. I didn't realize that this book was this big. I wanted to try some dragon fantasy and I have the audiobook for this. I also appreciate this book because I've already looked before I checked it out. And it has a map. It also has dragon pictures, and I believe that it also has some pictures throughout too to help me out, because you know I am not a good fantasy person, but I've heard really good things about this, and I've heard that it's a lot of people's favorites, and also it's kind of easy to get into. That's just what I've heard, but we're gonna try it out. And it also has orange in the title. Then I have Yellow Wife, and I have had this book on my shelf for years, and I finally just want to read it. I know that it's going to be a hard-hitting book because it's about a slave prison during the antebellum South period, so I know that it's going to be super hard-hitting, but I've heard beautiful things about this book and heard that it's very, very good, so I need to read it. Then I have Greenwich Park, and I believe that this is about a mom who is going through postpartum and having a little bit of difficulties. Just went through that myself, but I think it is a thriller. I mean, I know it's a thriller, but yeah, so there's that. Then I have Blue Sisters. Heard great things about this book. This is more of a literary fiction book about 3 sisters and they're estranged. Heard amazing things about this, so I don't know a lot of people's favorites of 2024 last year. Library had it. Library also has the audiobook for it, so why not? We'll read that. Then I have Indigo by Beverly Jenkins, and this is a historical romance novel about the struggle of African Americans in the Underground Railroad. Tells you right there what it's about. It's Beverly Jenkins. She's a legend. She does the damn thing, and I want to read this book. And then I also have Violet by Scott Thomas. Throwing a little bit of a horror in there. I've had this book on my shelf for a really long time too. I had a vision for this book last year, but I just didn't get to it. So I'm finally getting to it, and I'm very excited about this because I've heard really good things about it, and I've heard that it's creepy. So those are the books that I'm going to be reading. I don't know which ones I'm going to pick up first. I believe I'm just going to start with the library books first, especially the ones that I have to take back sooner than later. So possibly start with Blue Sisters maybe, because this is the one that I have to take back next week. So okay, we're gonna start with Blue Sisters, but we're reading the rainbow today. Okay, I also wanted to make sure that there was some queer representation in here as well, and this book is one of those books. So we're going to start with Blue Sisters first. I'm really excited to start reading this. It just sounds like it's going to be extremely emotional, and that's just what I'm in the mood for right now, is an extremely emotional book. Am I going to regret it? The emotional part of it, probably, but I think I'm really going to like this book just from what I've heard of people talking about it. So we'll start this first. In the car line to pick up my babes, but I wanted to fill you in and let you know that I am halfway through Blue Sisters. This is a really sad character study of these 4 sisters. Their last name is Blue, and all of them have their own issues going on. There's a lot of substance abuse in this book. There's a lot of talk about death, suicide, anxiety, depression. Like, it's just a really heavy book. It's really sad. So we have Bonnie, Avery, Lucky, and Nikki, and we find out really soon that Nikki has passed away, and all of the girls are trying to go through life without Nikki. You slowly get to meet all of the sisters and explore their backgrounds, explore their present day selves, explore like things that happened to them and why they are the way that they are. And it's just all really, really sad, and it's heavy, and it's also written really well in my opinion. I like Bonnie the most. She is a former boxer. She's now a bouncer at this club, and she's just very calm and collected, and she is trying to make sure that her family and her sisters don't lose touch, even though they don't talk as much. She's just trying to navigate like how they can all get together and how they can all just decide what's going to happen with their sister's flat, because that is like one of the main things in here. After their sister has passed away, Avery keeps up with the flat and like all the rent and everything like that. So their mom just kind of drops the bombshell on them about that, and they're just all grappling with how they feel about letting go of Nikki for good, because even though she's died, that flat was hers, and that flat was like her home, and they don't want to give that up. So they're all trying to figure out how to navigate that. But overall, this book is just, like I said, it's very sad, it's very heavy, and it deals with a lot of topics, a lot of triggers. Alcohol and drug substance abuse are heavy in this book, and the author does not shy away from those topics at all, which is appreciative, but also just go into it knowing that, especially if that's a really big trigger for you, because even though I knew it was going to be a heavy book, I didn't realize how heavy the substance and alcohol abuse was in here. Now let's talk about Avery. Avery is a recovering addict. She was hooked on heroin, and now she's a lawyer. She's in recovery. She lives with her wife, and they have a life together. And then Lucky, she's the youngest of the sisters. She is a model, and she is going through life realizing that she doesn't really like her life, and she's trying to figure out how she can be happier. And she just lost her job and all this kind of stuff, so that's happening with her. And Bonnie, like I've already mentioned Bonnie, but Nikki was 27. She had endometriosis, which I appreciate that aspect of the book, because endometriosis is not talked about enough. I know I've mentioned this before. I have endometriosis, and it really never went away, but after having kids, it's horrible and it hurts, and I'm just glad that there's representation in here of that. She was a teacher, I think I already said that, and she self-medicated and things happened, so there's that. But yeah, halfway through this, I'm listening to it on audio. The audiobook is really good, and yeah, just wanted to fill you in and let you know, halfway through this. I'm wearing a blue shirt today to represent blue. But I'm almost at the pickup, so just wanted to fill you in and let you know that I'm reading this. My arm's about to fall off. Hi, filling you in, letting you know I finished Blue Sisters the other day, and I am giving it a 3.75 because I'm going to be petty, okay? There's a lot of addiction in here. There's cheating in here. There are self-destructive acts that these sisters take. And the one that I connected with the most was Bonnie, and that's just because she was very level-headed. She seemed like she had the most empathy for all of these sisters, and she just wanted everybody to get along. She wanted to live her life, and she was just very level-headed to me, and I connected a lot with her. And we just take a deep dive, and this is a very deep character study in these sisters' lives. We see flashbacks of their lives. We see all of the present things that are going on that have gotten them to this point in their lives. And it was a really interesting read. I'm not going to say that I enjoyed it, because it's a very heavy book. It made me feel a lot of emotions that I did not want to feel at that particular moment, which author did very well, but I'm not going to say that it's a perfect 4 for me, just because some of the book I did not enjoy and I did not like. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you about those because I don't want to ruin anything. But just know going into this book that it's a very heavy book about these sisters who are just navigating their lives without their sister Nikki. And they do not have a good relationship with their parents at all. And you see that in here, and it just pissed me off, okay? But yeah, not a bad book. But this is also out of my comfort zone because it is literary, and I typically do not read straight literary books. So I wanted to try something different. And speaking about that, I am wearing blue. This is blue. It's just like a dark navy. Speaking about reading out of my comfort zone, y'all know, first of all, big book fear right here, okay? Second of all, high epic fantasies are not my thing whatsoever. So these books right here are taking me way out of my comfort zone, okay? So 3.75. Now we're moving on to the orange. And I have heard many things about this book. This book has like a 4.18 average out of like 50,000 ratings or whatever. And so far it's been pretty interesting. I am enjoying, I'm almost halfway through, but I'm enjoying the East chapters a lot more than the West chapters. The East chapters talk about all the dragons, and they talk about the training that what is her name? Tanae. Her name is Tanae, not Tate. It's T-A-N-E. So Tanae, she is training to be a dragon rider, and I really like her chapters. We also have this scientist person that's in the East too, and it follows a bunch of people. And then we have the West, which is more political, and it's more like status driven and all of those things. And her name is Saban, and she's the queen. And I like the East. I like the East a lot more than the West. When the West chapters start happening, I kind of find myself looking at my phone and not paying attention more than, you know, when I should be paying attention. And we get a lot more of the West chapters. So essentially this world does not want the Nameless One, which is a dragon, I'm assuming, to come back, because it went thousands of years ago, it went away, and everybody's, like, a plague was going through, and when they went back into the middle of the earth, that's when the plague stopped. And now the plague has come back, and all of these other dragons or wyverns or worms, whatever you want to call them, are coming back to life, and they do not want the Nameless One to come back, because if the Nameless One comes back, everybody's pretty much dead. So that's the whole premise of this book. And people are trying to not get the Nameless One to come back, but then you also have characters who are like, yes, we want the Nameless One to come back because the world is shit. And that's pretty much it. Pretty much it. There's a lot of political intrigue in here. There's training in here, which again I'm enjoying. You get to meet the dragons, which I really like those chapters too. I really like Tanae's dragon. Not that I can remember or pronounce the dragon's name, but I've been looking at like fan art and stuff like that going along, because there's creatures in here, and the way that they're described, I can't envision them in my brain, so I really rely on fan art for this. I also appreciate that there's like a glossary of people's names. There's a glossary of all of the different, there's like 20 pages of all of this. But I'm also appreciating the timeline in here, because the timeline's a little bit different than what we're used to. And yeah, it's been an interesting read so far. I'm listening to the audiobook. The narrator is okay. Not my absolute favorite. But if I wasn't reading this audiobookly, if that's a word, then I probably would not continue reading it, because like I said, I don't do well with fantasy books, and also this book is a chunky chunk. But I am on page 344. I read close to 200 pages yesterday listening to it. And when I get to the middle, when I get to part 3, that'll get me at 50%. So I probably won't fill you in again unless something just absolutely happens where I have to talk. And when I get to that point, I will let you know, or I'll just let you know how I feel about it once I get to the end. I don't know if this is going to be a 5-star for me, just because it's a lot, and personally, I don't ever think books should be this big. That's just me though. Like, that's a lot. This is big, and I usually appreciate stories that are about no longer than 500 pages, honestly. But I know that people eat this kind of stuff up, so maybe I'll eat it up too. But right now, I don't think it's going to be higher than like a 4. But we shall see, because the story is still young at 344 pages. Hello. So I'm here at the library because I need to return some books. Sorry about the lighting. It's kind of early in the morning, but wanted to let you know that I ended up finishing the Priory of the Orange Tree, and I'm giving it 3.25 stars. Not because it was a bad book, but y'all know this is way out of my comfort zone, and this was more of a political, epic fantasy, and I was wanting more dragons. We didn't get that many dragons, and that kind of disappointed me a little bit, because I was really hoping. How did I do that? I just split my screen in two, and I have no idea how I did that. I'm gonna just close that real quick. How did I do that? Anyways, it was more political than anything, which I should have known going into it, because it is an epic fantasy. But every time we would get the dragon scenes, it would only be for like maybe a couple chapters at a time, and then it would cut to the political stuff. And I was so into the dragons and learning about them, and learning about Tanae, who is a dragon rider, and learning about Iad, who is an assassin, kind of like she's a, what is she called? She's part of the Priory of the Orange Tree, and she's actually a dragon slayer. So her dynamic and Tanae's dynamic were pretty interesting to me, and I wanted to learn more about them. But a lot of this book is just about like political intrigue, about political strategy, of how they're going to end the Nameless One and all of that. And then at the very end, like in part 5, that's when we actually get to like the fighting and all of that stuff of the Nameless One, and it went by so fast. Like, it was just like so fast, and I was a little let down about that, because I wanted it to be like an epic fight, like, and there was still a lot of political talk during the fight of the Nameless One and everything, and it happened too fast for me. But overall, I can see why a lot of people really, really like this book and think of it as like a Game of Thrones type book, because it is. Like, if you've ever seen Game of Thrones or read Game of Thrones, which I've never read it, but I've watched all of the seasons, the different houses and the different like sections of of everything, it was a lot like that. But there was a lot of fluff in here too. There was a lot of stuff that I just didn't really care about all that much, and I feel like it was just thrown in there. I mean, it was relevant to the story, but it just wasn't, it just wasn't my thing. I read this book, and I feel like it was an accomplishment, and I feel like I can talk about this book to people now and just kind of give my insight on it. Will I be reading the rest of the series? No, because there are prequels to this, and one of the prequels is like 845 pages, and I'm like, it's a freaking prequel. Why? What? But I mean, Tanae and Iad were my favorite characters in here. I really loved their whole dynamic. I really loved their part of the actual fight itself. And Tanae and Nyamanthan, her dragon, they had did dirty this entire freaking book, and it made me so mad that they were treated the way that they were. So it's another little I have against this book. But yeah, it's not a bad book. It's just not my thing. But I'm glad that I read it. I'm glad that I tried it out. And moving forward, I'm gonna look for fantasy books that are a lot more like creature driven than political driven, because I already know that I don't really care for political books, but I just wanted to give this a try. 3.25 stars is still not bad. Everybody loves this book. So the representation in here was really good. There were a lot of queer characters in here. There was just a lot of talk about sexuality. There was a lot of talk about finding your purpose in life, and it was kind of a coming of age story for a few of these characters as well, and finding out about people's history and who they really are. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But yeah, so there's that. And then I started to read Lucky Red. And Lucky Red is another story that is completely out of my comfort zone, because I do not read Westerns whatsoever. And this is a Western about a woman named Bridget, and she's a teenager. She's 16, and she loses her dad. She ends up in Dodge City, and she starts sex worker, however you want to call it. They call it something completely different in this book, because this is set in the 1800s. And she's just going to be surviving. She's got a lot of... Sorry, that person. I don't know what that person's doing. Bridget knows how to take care of herself, and she has already expressed, like, being in Dodge City, she knows that she is going to probably have to do sex work, because that's really all that she can do. And knowing that she's young and vulnerable, people are going to try to take advantage of her, but she has already taken up for herself multiple times. She has a lot of spunk to her. She's just she'll do what she needs to do to survive, and I appreciate that about her already. I really like her. The chapter with her dad at the very beginning was extremely sad. It was very, very sad. She's basically an orphan now. Well, she's not basically, she is an orphan now. Her mother died when she was very young, and then it was just her and her dad, and her dad had a pretty difficult relationship, because her dad was an alcoholic and just kind of like left her a lot of times. So she's always been on her own, pretty much. She doesn't have a lot to her name, and she's just gonna have to survive in the wild, wild west in Dodge City, and I'm excited to go along with her journey. I also, the only shirt that I had that represents red and orange is my Blue Alien smut shirt. It has like you can't really tell in the sunlight, but there's orange and red right there together. That's like the only orange and red that I had, because I don't wear a lot of orange. I have a lot of red, but when it comes to the color orange, I have to be really careful with shades because of my skin tone. So yeah, I'm representing with my Blue Alien smut, not Hoth shirt, National Park, and there's some red and orange. I'll show you to prove it. You see, there's red and orange right there. So that's that. I just snorted. But yeah, okay, I gotta return some library books. Wanted to fill you in and let you know where I was in this video. And yeah, sorry about the lighting. I'm like dark and then light down here, so it's hot. I need to turn my air conditioning back. Okay, so it's hot outside, but it's cold inside my house. And I am wearing a tie-dye shirt that has red somewhere. Red. And then it also has indigo down here. So like the purpley bluey down here. It also has those colors. But I am cold right now, so I'm gonna keep my gray sweatshirt on and let you know that I ended up finishing Lucky Red, and I am giving it 4 stars. This was a character study about Bridget. Wish I could remember names, that would be great. This is a character study about Bridget, and she is 16 when she loses her father. She finds herself in Dodge City in a brothel. And the story just takes you through her time in the brothel, her time with the other girls that are in this brothel, her just doing whatever she can to survive, and her falling in love. And she realizes that she is attracted to women, And, you know, during this time, that was unacceptable. But the people that are around her support her and they don't judge her, which I thought was very endearing. And when she finds herself in a place that she has to take revenge, Bridget does not show any hesitation, because the person that hurt her also hurt the people that she ends up loving as a found family. And that's one of the like major themes in this book, is found family. And I absolutely love stories about found families. Just the way that these girls / women care for each other in this brothel. Even the like madam of the house who runs the brothel, she is not your typical madam. She does not lay a hand on the girls. She takes up for the girls. She makes sure that they are clean, they are fed. She has this like motherly aspect about her. Her right hand person is the one who makes sure all the girls are in line and everything like that, but she still has like a soft spot for everybody. And I liked that aspect, because every time I read about a brothel, it's always the girls or the women are always getting beaten if they don't do something right, or if they break the rules, they get food taken away from them or something like that. But that wasn't the case in this story. Bridget was able to make mistakes and grow from her mistakes. She's not the perfect character whatsoever, but none of these girls are. They're doing things that people should not have to do to survive, and she's just learning as she goes, and she makes so many mistakes, but there are people there that love her and that teach her and help her through the really hard times. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that aspect of this, because Bridget is very young and she's been around an alcoholic father. She's always had to take up for herself. She's always had to fend for herself, find ways to survive. And when she finally finds all of these women, she finds a family, and I absolutely love that. And there's humor all through this book. The girls are freaking hilarious. I was laughing all throughout this book, because Bridget is very sarcastic, but Bridget is also, like I said, really young, and getting to see her grow up and getting to see her sense of humor transform too. I thought that was great. But since she is living in a brothel, there are some scenes that are hard to read, but the author does a really good job during those scenes not over explaining what's going on. Like, you know what's going on, but she doesn't go into great detail about what's going on, which I appreciated too. There was a part in this book where I was like, I don't know if I like the way that this is going, and then the scene ended and I was like, okay, the author took care of Bridget. Even though Bridget is in this situation and she shouldn't have to be in this situation, the author is doing a really good job of protecting Bridget, and I appreciated that. The men in this book are despicable, obviously, because they are sleeping with underage women. I did not like a single... Okay. I love you. I love you. I did not like a single male character in here. They all acted like children, which, I mean, does that surprise you any? But yeah, it's a really good book. If you, like, this is way out of my comfort zone, especially literary and a Western, but if you were looking for that type of book, or if you're just looking for a good book about lesbian characters and historical, pick this up. It's really, really good. It's very underrated too. There's not a lot of people who have read it, but I think that everybody should read it because it has a lot to say. Then I started reading Indigo by Beverly Jenkins, and this woman, like, her writing is just so freaking beautiful. Everything she writes is like, it's absolutely gorgeous. And this book, I'm loving it. I'm loving Hester. I'm loving Gallon. Gallon is considered the Black Daniel, and he is a Frenchman from Louisiana who brings enslaved people to, like, the Underground Railroad houses so they can go to Canada. And Hester is a woman who houses people that are trying to get out of slavery, And the Black Daniel, Galen, is brought to her house because he has been stabbed, and she has to nurse him back to health. And I absolutely love that trope. Nursing back to health tropes, I eat them up. And then they don't like each other at first because Galen is just very brash, and he's very open and honest and rude to Hester because he doesn't want to be there. And Hester, I mean, she likes caring for him, she likes caring for people, but when he finally opens his mouth, she's like, can you please just shut up again? And I love that dynamic. And some of the quotes in here, I've been dying. I have been dying. And he calls her baby girl at one point too, and I'm like, ah! Can you tell which color I'm going to read next? So this little shawl thing is the only thing that I had in my closet besides this yellow shirt that has like all of the colors so far. It has indigo, it has yellow, it has orange, it has red. So I wanted to represent all of those colors. It has blue on there too. But I want to represent all those colors, especially indigo, because I gave this book 5 stars. Y'all, Hester and Galen, relationship goals. I know that my camera cut off in the middle of me like over these characters, and it continued throughout the book, and I absolutely freaking loved it. Galen takes care of Hester. Hester is always having to take care of other people, and she finds somebody like Galen, and he just takes care of her, and like their relationship is so sweet. They have good banter, it's sexy, there's just so much in here. And just like in every other Beverly Jenkins book, there is a little bit of a history lesson in here too, so I enjoyed learning about that. I enjoyed learning about the Underground Railroad and what was encompassed in that, because there's a lot of details in here that I didn't even know about learning about the Underground Railroad. So you always get like a little bit of a history lesson when you read Beverly Jenkins, and I appreciate that as well. But yeah, overall, Galen and Hester, chef's kiss. They are like at the top of the best couple of the year. Best couple of the year for 2025. They are in like first place at the moment, tied for first place at the moment. So we shall see if I read any more 5 stars for romance. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I absolutely love this story. It was very, very good. And if you have not read it yet and you've been wanting to read it, I would highly suggest picking it up, because it's a really, really good historical romance, and the characters in here are just like, they made me so happy. Okay, they made me so happy. So next I'm going to read Yellow Wife, and I'm very excited to read this. This has been on my shelf for a while. But this is about a woman who is born on a plantation in Virginia, and because her mother is very influential and considered a higher person of the enslaved people because she is the medicine woman, Phoebe is granted freedom on her 18th birthday. But then she finds herself on another plantation that is completely 100% horrible, like one of the worst plantations of the South, and she has to find ways to survive. I'm very interested to see how Phoebe is going to strategize her way of surviving the new plantation, because in the synopsis it says that she has to outwit the master. I hate using that word, master, even if making the ultimate sacrifice. So I'm not really sure what the ultimate sacrifice is. Neighbor. I'm not sure what the ultimate sacrifice is, but I'm very interested to see how this story goes. I've heard that it's hard-hitting, I've heard that it's sad, I've heard that it's going to make me feel all kinds of things, and we're going to go with Yellow Wife, and it matches my shirt. So I'll let you know how I feel about this when I get to about the 50% mark. I have this book on audio as well, so yay! I am in my yellow shirt today because we're going to be talking about The Yellow Wife. And y'all, this book is so freaking good. This is one of the best books that I have read this year. And I'm only halfway through it, and I'm telling you that I have been sucked into this world and learning about Phoebe and where she has ended up and how the master treated her over a lot of the other people and how the master treated her mom over the other people. And you meet the master's wife, who is a fantastic human. I'm being very facetious when I say that. She is one of the most deplorable characters that I've read about in a really long time. And the way that she treated Phoebe, even though Phoebe cannot, she can't help her circumstances. Dolores, or whatever the hell her name was, she's a horrible human. Horrible human. And the way that she treated Phoebe and the other enslaved people, and just her using her power the way that she did, I wanted something really bad to happen to her. And I'm sorry to say it, but I did. So something ends up happening to Phoebe's mom where Dolores sends Phoebe to this place called Devil's Half Acre. And I didn't realize that this story, like the Devil's Half Acre, is actually a real thing. And this book is based on the Lumpkin family. I think it was like Robert Lumpkin or something, and his wife Mary. And this story depicts that in a way, like the story is inspired by real life. And I watched an interview that the author had, and her family actually took a trip to this Devil's Acre place. They still have it. They still have it's like a museum type thing, I guess, where you can walk on the trail and all that. And she said that she went with her family to it and learned and realized what was going on and how people were treated in this prison, because it's essentially a prison where enslaved people go and they are broken and then they are sold off. And human trafficking happens to young girls. And Phoebe finds herself being treated better than other people again, because the person, what is his name? I don't remember his name. I don't really care to know his name. But the person that's in here, the head person of this prison, sees Phoebe and says that he wants her as his wife. So she is given more opportunities than other people in this prison. And again, she finds herself ostracized from other people because he treats her better than he treats other people and other enslaved people and other servants. And she sees what happens behind the scenes in this prison to how people are broken, and how her husband, who quote unquote treats her better than other people, treats children and treats women and treats these men, and how he breaks them, and how they're property to him and they don't matter to him. But then he comes back to her and he treats her well. He is using scare tactics to keep her in line. And she's also a mother, and she's just trying to survive, and she's trying to make sure that her children survive this. So she's doing what she has to do to survive, and it's really sad. But Phoebe also has this strength about her, and I can't help but love her for that, and how even though she's been dealt a really horrible life, she still has hope, and she still wants to help people, and she does things that she finds despicable, but again, she's just trying to make sure that she survives and her children survive. And there was one scene in here with a little boy, and I just broke down into tears because she did something, and she knows that what she did was horrible, but it could have been her kid. And being a mom, you never know what you would do in a situation like that. You never know what you're gonna have to do to make sure that your children survive. And you may do things that you didn't think that you would ever have to do to make sure that your kids are safe. So there's a lot of grayness in here, but I think that it's done beautifully, and the story itself is very hard, but it's important, and I think everyone needs to read this. And I'm only 50% into this, and I've been talking about it for 7 minutes, but daggum, y'all, this is a good one. Sorry, I look like a teenage boy. A teenage nerdy boy, you know? Anyways, I finished Yellow Wife, and I gave it 5 stars. I know that I told you pretty much everything that I felt about this book in my last clip, and nothing has really changed from the fact that Phoebe is doing things that she normally would not do to survive and to make sure that her children survive and those around her survive. She sees and endures horrible things. The person that claims to be her husband is one of the worst people that I have ever read about, and what all of these enslaved people had to go through, and knowing that those are real things that people had to go through is just sickening. This story made me cry. It made me sick to my stomach. It made me smile in ways as to how Phoebe is just, even through everything that she has gone through, she still has so much love for her kids and for the people that are around her. And the ending that happened, it made me really, really happy to know that the way that it happened. And Phoebe is based off of an enslaved person named Mary, who was chosen by Robert Lumpkin to be his wife and to have all of his children. And the Devil's Acre was a real place. And to know that Phoebe lived there and she tried to help as many people as she could, and knowing that Mary was the person too. And I don't know, it's just one of those books that everybody needs to read. It's a hard book to read, but like the author in one of her interviews, if these people had to go through everything, the least we could do as readers is to read and reflect on how these people were treated. And just the research that went into this book, I know was hard for this author to have to read and to have to write. But I think everybody should read this book, or a book like this, at least once in their life, to know what enslaved people had to go through to survive, and how many people did not survive, and many people were taken away from their families, and how kids and babies had to see their parents go through all of this stuff, and they were just traumatized just because people were racist. And it's so sad. Like, it's so sad, and it's still super hard to me. Like, it's still hard to even know that there are still racist people in this world, and people are still okay with like how Black people and how colored people are treated even to this day, and how they were treated back in the day. I don't know, that's just one of those things that really, it just really bothers me to this day. And just how hateful people are, you know. And this is a good representation of how somebody has had to go through these things, especially as a Black woman living in the United States. And I don't know, Phoebe is just a light, and I really enjoyed her character and learning about her, even though she did do some things that I did not agree with. Obviously, she did what she had to do to survive and to make sure that her kids stayed alive too. So, yep, it's an excellent book. Obviously, I've talked about it for 10 minutes straight with these 2 clips. And I want to kick myself in the butt for not for waiting so long to read this, but I'm really, really glad that I have read it now. We are going to switch gears to Violet, and I have yellow and purple on my shirt. Can't really see it all that well, but this is the only shirt that I have that has like all the colors except green. It doesn't have green. Anyways, we're gonna switch to Violet, which is weird because the name of this book is Violet, but the book itself is red. We're gonna read some horror. So I'm wearing my purple. This is as close as Violet as it's gonna get, okay? Because I'm reading Violet, and I am a little over half. I've been listening to the audiobook while I work today, and this is a very sad, slow horror. Because we have Chris and we have Sadie, and Chris's husband and Sadie's dad just died, and they are grieving. So Chris really doesn't know what to do in this moment besides go back to the place where she was the happiest, which was at their lake house. But this lake house also has a very sad memory for Chris too, because that's where her mom died. And while she is dealing with the grief of losing her husband, she's also trying to hold it together because her young daughter, who is I think 8 or 9, Sadie is, yeah, she's around 8 or 9. She's grieving because she just lost her dad. So Chris is trying to hold it together to protect Sadie and to try to help Sadie through this. So when they go to the lake house, I swear I just saw somebody at my front door, but then when I looked at my camera there was nobody there. That was creepy, especially talking about a book like this. Anyways, okay, so they go to this lake house, and it's not like Chris remembered. It's very dilapidated. It's been let go, and she's here with her daughter, but she wants a fresh start for them. So she takes it upon herself to stay at the lake house even though it's very old and they have to clean it, and it's really a beautiful bonding experience between Chris and Sadie, because Chris is finally seeing Sadie's old personality come back through, and she's just really happy that her daughter is starting to show her brightness, her light again after her dad has died. But then weird, creepy things start happening. It's very subtle, but Sadie starts talking to an imaginary friend, and Chris learns about all of these young girls that have gone missing. She sees somebody looking at their house, and there are now things happening in the actual house that are just very unsettling, and it's just slowly creeping up. This story is just mostly about grief and how to handle grief, and there's also some, I wouldn't say substance abuse, but Chris is relying a lot on her medication to help her through, and sometimes time slowly slips from her and she doesn't really remember things. So there's that aspect too. So is Chris really experiencing what she's experiencing? But then she's also noticing subtle differences about Sadie as well. And Sadie has grown more mean-spirited and is pulling away from Chris. And while Chris is dealing with all of her grief and just memories coming back from her childhood, she realizes that Sadie is slipping away from her. So while there is a bonding experience, there's that aspect too. And I think it just plays into motherhood a lot. I do think that Scott Thomas has done a very good job with motherhood. And when you have something like a death in the family happen, moms and parents in general are supposed to, be brave and be there for their kids and just still try to shelter them from the mental agony that can cause to somebody, because they understand what's happening, but they might not understand it fully to the extent that adults do. So I understand where Chris is coming from in that aspect, and seeing your child go through something like that, I can only imagine it's heartbreaking. I personally have not had to go through that yet. I really hope that I don't have to for a long time, but it's just really sad. And something or someone playing on that and knowing that Chris and Sadie are going through this and that they're vulnerable plays a huge part in this too. So it's a deep dive into grief, motherhood, possible paranormal things going on. Chris also trying to figure out what's been happening with all of these missing girls in the town that she has loved since she was a child, and her realizing too that this place is not perfect and people in this place have secrets. So I'm actually really enjoying it. Like, I am really enjoying this. At first I was kind of like me, because the writing is very dense. I can say that. The writing's very dense and it takes a little bit to get into. I do remember feeling the same way when I read Kill House by this author, and I had the same feelings at first, but then I got into the story and I was just like, I need to know what's going on. So there's that too. But yeah, I'm enjoying this, and I apologize if you have heard my computer in the background this entire time. I just realized that it's running pretty hard, but I'm not refilming this segment, so sorry if you can hear that in the background. Here to update you, I have my green and purple shirt on because I finished Violet. I ended up giving this a 3.75. It's been a couple of days since I read this, and it's kind of like out of my head. I just know that so the ending of this wasn't my absolute favorite because of the way that it went. I was really hoping that it was going to stay with like the creepy aspect of a ghost in this house and everything. Not that it didn't do that, but I wanted the ghost to be more malevolent than it was, and not what it represented in this actual book. I don't know. I didn't really like the last twist of this, and then it just kind of went off the rails at the very end. So 3.75. It's not a bad haunting book at all. It's just not what I personally like in my haunting books. It was written very flowery, and it took me a little bit to get into it, but I think that's just Scott Thomas's writing in general, because it was the same way with Kill Creek. But comparing this to Kill Creek was just a little more insane, and that's what I wanted out of this. This was very sad, grief-filled, and that was the tone of it, and I did not want that tone in this book. I wanted more insanity like Kill Creek, but you know, whatever. But yeah, this is a pretty terrifying book, but it's just that slow, sad horror, and I was looking for something else. Now we're switching to Greenwich Park, and all I know about this one is that it is about motherhood, unreliable friendships, and high price of keeping secrets. That's all I really know, and that's all I want to know going into this book. In particular, I've had this book on my TBR for years. When did this book come out? This book came out in 2022, so yeah, I've had this book on my TBR for a while, and I just recently got it for my birthday, thanks to my mom and my daddy. Maybe it was either my mom or my daddy or my husband. Anyways, it's supposed to be freaky, and I'm excited for it. Wonder if they'll Hi, here to update you on Greenwich, not Greenwich, Greenwich Park. And this is a pretty slow psychological thriller about a woman named Helen who is pregnant. She meets this chick, Rachel, at like a group, like a pre-pregnancy group, prenatal class, there you go, a prenatal class, and they become friends. Rachel is one of those friends that's like always there, and anywhere you go she pops up and kind of like that. And then Helen also realizes that stuff comes up missing when Rachel is around. But then you also have the mystery of who Rachel's baby daddy is. So there's that. It's a very slow moving thriller. I would say a mystery. I don't really know how to put this into a specific genre per se, because it's one of those thrillers or books that there's just not a lot, there's not a lot happening. You have Helen, who is high risk pregnancy. She was told that she had to stay at home. Basically her doctor told her not to work anymore. So she's just going through this pregnancy. She doesn't have a lot of friends. When she meets Rachel, she really likes Rachel at first, even though Rachel is very brash. And she doesn't really know what to think of her. She thinks she looks familiar as well. And we're getting like small pieces of background knowledge about Helen's past and when she was in college. And a specific crime happened when she was in college, I believe. And there's a specific, like, we're getting glimpses back and forth between Helen and like her husband and her brother Rory and Serena, who is also Rory's wife. So there's a lot of people in here. It's not hard to keep up with, but yeah, there's just not a lot of stuff happening. Not that I'm not enjoying it, but people don't really like Helen all that much, and I don't know why. I'm assuming it's because of something that happened in the past. Because Serena, even though Serena is her sister-in-law, Serena don't like her. Like, there is just something about Helen that Serena does not like. Like, Serena is constantly... Can you hear that? My dog is drinking. We'll let her drink. Are you thirsty? Were you thirsty, huh? Yeah? You thirsty, girl? Anyways, Serena really doesn't like Helen all that much. They've been friends since college and all that. But Serena talks major shit behind Helen's back. And like the inner monologues that we're getting from Serena, I'm like, girl, have you said that out loud? Because if she said that out loud, that's gonna hurt Helen's feelings so bad. So I don't really have a lot of like thoughts about Helen. The person that I have thoughts the most about is Rachel, because she is very odd. Like, she knows something happening and I don't know what's happening. No one really knows what's happening. And then we're also getting a glimpse from Katie, who is Helen's sister, and she is a lawyer, and she is on trial right now with a grape case, and Rachel seems to know a lot about that case. So I'm interested to see what's going on. I do think we just got, like, I'm a little over halfway. I think there is a twist in here that's about to come up finally. But yeah, I also think Helen is something going on with Helen, because she is like losing her memory and stuff like that, which is common during pregnancy. But I think it's more than that. But yeah, Rachel is weird. Howdy. Here to update you and let you know that I ended up finishing Greenwich Park. I'm giving this a 2.5. Wasn't my absolute favorite, obviously. There were some good twists. There was some good plot things that happened in here, but the overall tenseness and mysteriousness and thrilling aspect to this book didn't really tickle my fancy, you know, and it was just a really slow thriller, and I like my thrillers fast-paced. And we're really just following Helen through her pregnancy and meeting this Rachel woman and figuring out what happened to Rachel, because Rachel ends up going missing. Yeah. So there's just, I don't know, there wasn't a lot that happened in here besides those things, and it was just a little boring to me. But I can appreciate what the author was trying to do. I do know that this is a debut, so I'd be interested to read some more from this author in the future, because I do like the writing in here. I did like the character development in here. I did like the overall setting as well. So there were some good things in here, but overall not my absolute favorite. So it is going in the donate pile. So also, thank you Mom and Daddy for buying this for me. Sorry it didn't work out. So let's do a recap of all the books that I read. So Indigo, Yellow Wife, those are my 5 stars in here. Absolutely love those 2 books. If you haven't read them yet, you need to read them. Lucky Red was the one that surprised me the most that I liked in here. I gave it a 4.25, and I really just enjoyed the character development that was in here, the found family aspect that was in here, and it's a Western, and I typically stay away from Westerns because they're not my thing. But those were the highest rated books that I had. I was very proud of myself for finishing The Priory of the Orange Tree, because that is just that is a book. It's rather large, obviously. Plus, I usually don't read books like that, and I was just proud of myself for getting through that. It was an accomplishment, and that was something that I set for myself this year, reading books that were more out of my comfort zone than anything. I can appreciate Blue Sisters for what it was, and I'm finally glad that I read Violet, because it's been on my bookshelf for forever. And Grown Much Park, even though it wasn't my favorite, glad that I finally got to read this because it's been on my bookshelf for forever. There was just a lot of books in this video that I've been wanting to read for a while, books that I've seen on social media that have just been popping off, and I'm like, are they really that good? But overall, I enjoyed this whole video concept. If you want to see something like this again, please just let me know in the comments. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.